Good evening, and on behalf of the Big Picture Alliance, welcome to our virtual event celebrating the recipients of the 2021 Pharaoh Harris Young Visionary Scholarship. Tonight we gather to celebrate the accomplishments and ambitions of our young filmmakers and to honor the memory and legacy of Pharaoh Harris. Pharaoh was an aspiring young filmmaker with the Big Picture Alliance program at Dobbins High School, who was lost to gun violence in 2000. The Young Visionary Scholarship Fund was created by his father, Marvin Harris, the Harris family, and Big Picture Alliance to honor his memory through supporting future generations of youth in pursuing college and career paths as creatives, filmmakers, and media professionals. This year's recipients represent an exceptionally talented and driven cohort of young media makers that have been part of the BPA community for years, evolving as artists, producing groundbreaking work, and even shaping BPA into a more youth-driven organization through the founding of our youth-led VLX Media Collective. We're so proud of all they've accomplished and grateful to the Harris family for enabling us to support their college and career aspirations through the fund. So congratulations to Demi Sills-Toomer, Michelle Wu, and Theo Weiss-Flam. Each has received a $2,000 scholarship towards their college tuition. Now, a little bit about each of these incredible young artists. Demi grew up in West Philadelphia and excelled in BPA's summer programs, VLX Media Collective, and Media Futures programs. She co-directed and edited the film Blossom, a short documentary about how young artists dealt with the COVID pandemic, for which she was awarded a high school Emmy by the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. She's now pursuing a degree in film and TV at NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. Michelle Wu grew up in South Philly and developed a passion for filmmaking through BPA's Delphi Summer Teen Media program. In 2018, she became a co-founding member of our VLX Media Collective, where she directed, wrote, and edited several films. Her film, A Side of Light, uplifted how Philadelphia's Asian American organizations were using mutual aid to support their communities during the COVID pandemic. The film was featured at Philadelphia Asian American Film Fest, on Channel 6 ABC News, and on WHYY. She's now pursuing a degree in Human Resources and Digital Marketing at Temple University's Fox School of Business. Theo Weiss-Flam grew up in Philadelphia, where he excelled in BPA's Delphi Summer Teen Media program and was also a co-founding member of BPA's VLX Media Collective. He's written, directed, and edited numerous films. His film In a New Light received honorable mention at the 2020 Film Now Film Festival. His documentary, College Bound in a Pandemic, was broadcast on WHYY. He's now pursuing a degree in environmental design at UC Berkeley, and he's the deputy editor of photography at the Daily Californian, UC Berkeley's renowned newspaper. Tonight's screening will feature films from each of these amazing young filmmakers, including Inside the Color Green by Demi Sills-Toomer, In a New Light by Theo Weiss-Flam, A Side of Light by Michelle Wu, Influenced Influenza by Theo and Michelle, and Brother's Keeper, featuring the late Pharaoh Harris. And please join us after the screening for a celebration and conversation with our scholarship recipients and special guests, including BPA staff and members of the Harris family. We'll be sharing the Zoom link at the end of the screening that you can use to join the conversation. So many people were instrumental in the creation and administration of this fund, so I'd like to especially thank Terry Yago Ryan, Steve Rosard, Tom McLaughlin, Jeff Cedar, the late Jared Martin, Reggie Pullett, our board of directors, staff, and of course Marvin Harris and the entire Harris family for making this possible. The Young Visionary Scholarship is at the core of Big Picture Alliance's mission of empowering young people to define their own narrative in life and to reach their full potential as artists, professionals, and individuals. So if you're inspired to support this mission, please consider donating to the fund. You can go to bigpicturealliance.org/donate, or you can use the link below in Crowdcast. We thank you for supporting our youth and honoring the legacy of Pharaoh Harris. Now I'm going to pass it off to our scholarship recipients to say a few words before we get into the films. So again, congratulations to you all, and thanks to everyone for joining us this evening.
Hello, my name is Demi Sills. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm currently a first year at New York University. My experience with Big Picture Alliance has honestly been absolutely amazing. It's just an amazing group of people doing wonderful, awesome, and amazing things, creating wonderful, awesome, and amazing things, and giving opportunities to the people who also want to do those awesome things. I'm just really happy I was able to experience the experience that is Big Picture Alliance. I'm happy I was able to be a part of a community of creators who genuinely care about their art and care about each other and just want to teach that to other people. And I feel like if I wasn't a part of that, I wouldn't be the person or creator I am today, because I honestly learned a lot about myself and a lot about creating film in general. And I'm just honestly so grateful for that. And I'm really thankful for this scholarship, because New York is expensive, NYU is expensive, and having the opportunity to pursue my dreams is really amazing for me. So thank you.
My name is Theo Flam. And first of all, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to the Harris family for considering me and honoring me with this incredibly generous scholarship. I'm touched. I'm deeply grateful for the award. And you have my word that I will continue to pursue visual media creation, filmmaking, photography, and hopefully honor the legacy and memory of your son. When I started with BPA back in 2018, I never would have imagined this is where I would end up. Um, I've learned so much. I've met so many amazing people. I've been granted with the power of storytelling and filmmaking and the knowledge of how to work a camera and use that tool to inform, to invoke emotion onto people, to tell stories, which is such a powerful thing, especially these days. So thank you to everybody who helped make this happen for me. I'm so grateful to all of you. Mentors, Alex, Bettina, Nikki, Michael, thank you so much. Everybody in BPA, all of the other students, especially those who were founding members of VLX Media Collective. I love you all deeply, and I can't wait to see what we do next. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and I want to first say thank you to the Harris family for the generous contribution into my education. I'm currently a junior at Temple University Fox School of Business studying human resource. Over the past couple of years, I've actually been paying tuition on my own, where I had to work multiple part and full-time shifts in order to pay my tuition, both during school and over the summer. And it became extremely hard for me to continue because I was actually one of the workers who were laid off of my job because of COVID-19. And so this scholarship means a tremendous amount to me, as it will release some financial burden that colleges bring. As far as Big Picture Alliance role into my life, they have impacted me tremendously in ways I can't even explain. From the day that I was a part of Delphi Summer Teens Media to co-founding VLux and watching VLux grow, I know that without a doubt I wouldn't have it any other way. Big Picture Alliance has given not only me but hundreds of youth in Philadelphia a platform where they could express themselves freely through the arts, and I aspire one day to do the same. Currently, I am working as an EIT intern, which stands for Enterprise Talent Infrastructure, where I design internal materials for PNC to give to their board of directors, shareholders, and executives. And I know without a doubt that this position that I'm in wouldn't be possible with the experience, without the experience of Big Picture Alliance, because Big Picture Alliance has build up my skill sets, and it has allowed me to develop and grow as a professional and as an individual. As far as my dreams, I hope to one day inspire people with the work I create, whether it's through film or just creating content in general. I want to have a message in all of my pieces where I'm able to inspire others to express themselves freely of how they see fit as well. And my education becomes a big part of being one step closer into achieving my goal of inspiring others. And so this scholarship means a lot to me. Thank you so much, the Harris family.
professional. And yo, that's not the way it happened. Look, you was in the corner sleeping. If you gonna tell a story, you gotta make it a good one.
No. That's not the way it happened. They was all inside the club. That's when the rumble started.
Oh, you right. And everybody ran outside to see what was gonna happen. And the bad boy Blinky show up. You know he be bagging. So everybody left. They knew what time it was. That's why I stopped going to the club, man. But something always breaking out. They be chasing the girls away.
Nah, man, your hot breath be chasing them girls.
Damn! Stay still, man. You boy be crying, man.
Yo, Black, man. You ever catch them boys that stuck you up after the club a couple weeks ago?
Nah, dog, but I got something for next time.
I heard it was some girls.
Matter of fact, it was your mother with that fat booty looking like Cleo himself.
Damn, man, what you doing?
Stay still.
Yo, you keep nicking me, I'm gonna have Rock cut my head next time.
Oh, you trying to say rock cut better than I do?
You try to do too many things at one time. Cutting, eating, talking. I'm surprised you ain't even on the phone yet.
Oh. Hello, Samir's House of Style.
Yo, don't you mean Samir's basement?
Damn, man. Yo, I'm out.
You gonna pay for that, bro?
No. Damn, man, you got my hairline all crooked. Man, I ain't paying for this cut.
Hold on, baby.
Yo, Rock. I'll see you next week, dog.
All right, forget you now. I ain't mad. I got customers. I got them. Who's next?
I'm not getting my head all chopped up by you. Come on, Rob. Time to practice. Let's get the bike and
Oh,
go down
like
by
that?
the river.
Forget you then.
It's July 2019 and I'm looking for a rock. And I'm not just any rock, it's a special rock. I need one of those cool and sharp looking rocks. I need a red one or maybe a nice gray. And you may be questioning why I'm looking for a colored rock in the middle of this. But that's really beside the point. What matters is that this place is special. So obviously the rocks are going to be special, which means that my collection is going to be freaking sick. Ladies, gents, people who are breathing and watching this right now, we found one. I think I found one. A mushroom colored rock? A giant rock? This is so sick. "911, what's your emergency?"
You know, you're saying no hoarder habits aren't a substitute for real people. I mean, come on now. You're saying that? What's the matter, darling? You don't like hearing the truth? Don't you want to feel something? Set yourself on fire. Don't you want to lie here all day? I mean, you seem like you're so tired, and it's not like anybody will miss you anyway.
You're not real.
Your eye bags are like super visible, like. Oh, come on. You know you want to, but you're too scared. Just like you're scared of everything else. What if she's suffocating? One less problem the world has to worry about.
I'm not a girl.
Oh, honey, look at yourself. Are you sure about that? Darling, journaling won't make me disappear. I'm here. Always.
Get up, Nate. Don't miss your train again.
Where are my frosted flakes?
I don't know. Dad was the one who went shopping. Thank you would be nice.
Thanks. When are Mom and Dad getting back?
Not till tomorrow night.
Oh shit, I can have people over.
Dude,
What?
you remember last time? It was like you were a different person.
That was different?
Well, I'm not covering up for you this time. Mom and Dad were all over me.
I never asked for your help.
You're better than this, Nate.
Get out of my face!
What? Nate.
What's your deal this morning, dude?
Just worried.
Hey, where's Nate?
I think upstairs.
Thanks.
Don't fear none. My line busy, take no calls. Feels like I don't have no flaws. Snakes in the grass, cut those off. Yo, squad shady, my bros raw. No breaks, we go, 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 go. Don't shade, that's a no, no, no. Go high, go low, low, low. Like spinning in a 644. Cash money like 504. Ball like AD24. No sleep, need more, more, more. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up.
Morning. Parents called, they'll be home by 3. How do you want your eggs?
I always take them scrambled.
How'd you sleep?
I'm pretty tired still, actually.
Go back to your country.
Are you the one who ate the bat? This is America. Speak English.
Coronavirus.
Chinese people are nasty.
Ching chong.
Make these Chinese people die.
No one wants bring that chink virus.
Stupid chink. The year 2020. Headlines. COVID-19 has fueled racism and xenophobia against Asian Americans. One by one, we watch our brothers, sisters, elders, our community verbally and physically attacked. We became the blame for a global pandemic that infected 21.8 million people and claimed the lives of 773,000 worldwide and still counting. Yet racism is simply not the only challenge we face. The stigma that surrounds the virus kept customers out of Asian-owned business in fear of contracting COVID-19. This drove 80% of customers away, leading to profits plummeting and some stores forced to shut down. I reached out to organizations led by Asian American and Pacific Islanders in Philadelphia to get their perspectives on how COVID-19 has impacted the Asian community.
Hi, my name is Sinta Benyami Storms, and I am the founder and director of Modero & Company. I am one of the community leaders for the Indonesian community in South Philadelphia. The COVID-19 impacted the Asian American in Philadelphia, specifically the Indonesian community, because a lot of people actually lost their jobs. People don't have income coming in. People are struggling with paying rent. And then, of course, also with healthcare issues, a lot of the immigrant community don't have health insurance. So from healthcare perspective, it's impacted us tremendously.
My name's Alex Marika Webb, and I'm the executive director at Asian Americans United. And Asian Americans United has existed in Philadelphia since 1985, when it was founded by a group of people who wanted to be able to start taking a stand around some of actually the anti-Asian incidents that were happening in the community. One of the things that we've heard about and know is that when smaller businesses have had to close, the number of employees has changed. People have needed to look for new jobs, and those new jobs have often been in places, factories, different places like that, where there are workers that are needed, where other workers are needing to be replaced, and they're having to now travel there in not very safe conditions, in vans that are closed, having to then work in places that are not set up to avoid getting COVID. And so there are segments of community that are getting sick.
Our community that's already underrepresented at times, and then because our community is the type of community with this culture that we tend to not to rock the boat. Like, we are very submissive, we follow the rules and things like that. But then during this pandemic, because of that one comment from our own leader, we get targeted for just being who we are, for just being someone who's not even bothering anybody, just going about our business, just taking the public transportation, doing our daily life. So we were under attack for being who we are. We didn't even do anything.
We know that, for example, in New York City, even in just the last few weeks, an elderly woman was beaten and set on fire. That could happen in any of our communities easily. That we certainly were having incidents in Philadelphia.
Anti-Asian and xenophobia has been deeply rooted in our history, but there has also been a long history of Asian-led organizations that have helped the community through these tough times.
There have been different funds that have been set up to provide relief to undocumented folks who are ineligible for unemployment compensation, the federal level or the state level, and also who are not eligible for the stimulus relief check. We have been lucky to be able to access funds to distribute to our communities and community members who are in that situation. And I think we will have distributed probably somewhere close to $125,000. We've also been a part of distributing supplies to our communities that are in need, taking part in distribution and doing distribution of masks and gloves and information. We've tried to set up a lot of access to resources for our communities and to work in partnership with other organizations.
So Modero has collaborated with a few other community organizations within the Indonesian community, and then what we found out when we heard that a lot of people lost their jobs, they don't have income, they are afraid to leave their homes, we decided to come together and start collecting resources just within ourselves first to put together care packages that consist of essential foods, things that people can use and eat at home, and then maybe combine it with other things. That's what we did, and we started doing that about once in every 2 weeks. But then we promoted that on social media. We started having other community members donating other resources, like even organizations like Resolve Philly, CMAC, Asian American United even donated funding and then donated food. So we're very grateful for that. And what we have also trying to do is connecting resources from City of Philadelphia to our community, specifically because of the language barrier. So then we have a few people in Modera and also a part of this Kampung team. So Kampung actually means village, helping community members if they need to fill out like unemployment or workers relief fund from the city of Philly. Those are the kind of things that we've been doing even to this day, and we're planning to do this for the rest of the year.
This historically is something that we've seen at play for quite a long time now in the United States, and it tends to really grow when our communities are under stress. We need to, in turn, take a stand for other communities that are being targeted. We must stand with Black communities. We must stand with Latinx communities that are also being targeted in different ways. We shouldn't blame each other. We shouldn't turn against each other. We're going to have to fight shoulder to shoulder for our futures at this point.
We should be proud of who we are and where we come from. Our rich history and legacies that we carry with us from songs, dances, and traditions we pass down from generation to generation, bringing us closer to our roots.
Learning about or remembering the traditions of making lanterns, solving riddles, and the lessons in the folk tales that we're sharing.
Each day should be a celebration of our community, to learn, respect, and honor other cultures as it will unite us together.
This is what we are saying as Asian Americans, not just in Philadelphia, but across the country.
We need to fight shoulder to shoulder for the injustice we witness around the world. Because although one person can make a difference, together we can change the world.
During the fall of 1918, the city of Philadelphia held a war bonds parade against all public health guidance. On September 28th, the Liberty Loans Parade brought a crowd of 200,000 to Broad Street to raise funds for World War I. As Philadelphians of all backgrounds shouted and cheered, the invisible virus jumped from person to person, commencing the flu's stranglehold on the city that would lead to Philadelphia's deadliest winter on record. Within weeks, the city was gripped with a dual virus, a deadly flu that was accelerated by false information fueled by fear. 72 hours later, all 32 hospitals in Philadelphia were at maximum capacity, and an overwhelming amount of deaths soon followed. Much of these deaths were the result of intentional and unintentional attempts to undermine factual health guidance of the time. This is known as misinformation and disinformation, two key terms integral to understanding the flu pandemic of 1918. With definitions, we will clearly lay down guidelines that will operate within during this three-part series. Disinformation, defined as false information deliberately and often covertly spread to influence public opinion or obscure the truth, often with intent to harm. Misinformation, defined as incorrect or misleading information, usually with the intent to help. Words of mass destruction, influenced, influenza. The exact origin of the virus, commonly known as Spanish flu, is unknown, but the first case was documented in Kansas in 1918. Over the next 2 years, the flu infected 500 million people, killing at least 50 million of them globally and 675,000 domestically. The virus was a strain of the H1N1 flu, with common symptoms of strong fever, nausea, aches, discoloration in the face, and difficulty breathing from fluid-filled lungs. The virus also left survivors susceptible to greater infection. As a result, many came down with severe pneumonia, which was often the ultimate killer. It is important to note that science and germ theory were still in their early stages of development, so even experts of the time were unsure of the cause and how to effectively stop the spread. This evoked considerable fear among citizens. Okay, so now that we know the severity of the flu and what it can do, why would it be illegal to report it to the public? While World War I had been raging in Europe since 1914, with the introduction to the flu in 1918, the strategy and approach to the war significantly changed. The global struggle for power led to the increase of tribalism within warring countries. In turn, this led to the centering of critical health information to avoid showing weakness to their adversaries. The restricted knowledge about the flu reduced public awareness and allowed it to spread rapidly, causing millions of avoidable deaths. In fact, the very name Spanish flu is a misnomer, resulting from wartime censorship during the years of warfare. Virtually every country involved engaged in information suppression, a common tactic of government-sponsored disinformation. However, Spain remained neutral throughout the war and allowed its press to operate freely. So when King Alfonso XIII came down with the flu in the spring of 1918, it was widely reported, and the false impression of Spain as the epicenter stuck. The United States was no exception to the tactic of controlling the press. On May 16, 1918, President Woodrow Wilson signed the Sedition Act. In Section 3 of the text, the act states that whoever, when the United States is at war, shall willingly utter, print, write, or publish any disloyal, profane, or abusive language about the form of government of the United States or the Constitution of the United States shall be punished by a fine of not more than $10,000 or in prison for not more than 20 years. By making it illegal to publish anything that put the country and the war effort in a negative light, the Sedition Act caused a disruptive ripple effect on the whole country and especially Philadelphia. This manifested during the Liberty Loans Parade in September. Though aware of the huge risks, city officials refused to cancel the parade because it was seen as essential to raising funds for the war and keeping patriotic spirits high. Although there was pushback and extensive reasons to cancel, the city refused and stated that the virus was already contained. In order to get a better understanding of what occurred that September in Philadelphia, we spoke to an expert from the Muter Museum at the College of Physicians of Philadelphia.
My name is Nancy Hill. I am the museum manager at the Muter Museum. I was the project manager on Spit Spread Staph, the influenza pandemic of 1918 through 1919. So the story of the flu in Philadelphia really starts down at the Navy Yard. So I think when we think about pandemics today, there's a certain kind of assumption made about global travel, which wasn't the case in 1918. In 1918, it wasn't common for people to be moving around both, domestically within the country and internationally the way that we do today. The exception in 1918 was that it was wartime. And so a lot of people were moving between training camps across the country and also moving, between the US and Europe and other parts of the world because of the war effort. So in Philadelphia, the flu was really introduced to the city via the Navy Yard through a ship that came from Boston carrying military personnel.
That flu-ridden ship arrived in Philadelphia's Navy Yard on September 7th, personally delivering the lethal killer that would plague the city for an upcoming winter. At first, the flu was believed to be contained to the port, with numerous short articles in local newspapers claiming that it was all under control and the virus would soon be eradicated. Business as usual was clearly the message, all was well. Business as usual was not the reality. All was not well. The virus had seeped from the port and exploded into the general population of the city by mid-September. Nevertheless, the city continued insisting that the virus was contained, saying on September 20th in the Evening Public Ledger that
the fact that the disease was not reported makes it difficult for health officials to estimate exactly the number of cases in the city now. Some say that several thousand is a conservative figure. There's a slight possibility health authorities will declare quarantine against the disease. Naval authorities believe today they will have the epidemic well in hand and will be able to stamp it out completely within 2 weeks.
The city had additional incentive to downplay the severity of the virus because of the all-important Liberty Loans Parade at the end of the month. It was the third parade of its kind in the year, and it was critical to the city on meeting its fundraising quota.
About 200,000 people came out on South Broad Street, and within 72 hours of that event, all 32 hospitals that existed in the city at the time were full. And so we can't say with any kind of certainty that the parade was the catalyst for the spread of flu in Philadelphia. It was certainly a bad idea.
Within 2 weeks, mortality skyrocketed, and over the next 6 weeks, 12,000 Philadelphians died from the virus. That would be on average 286 people within the city dying every single day. However, the parade wasn't solely to blame. Additional war-related factors led to the rapid spread during the fall and winter. To support the war effort on the front lines of Europe, the military recruited 75% of Philadelphia's medical workers, leaving the city vulnerable and hospitals unable to provide care. The population of Philadelphia had grown to 1.7 million people. Much of these people lived in unsanitary row homes with 3 to 5 families to a single house, and made a living manufacturing war materials in industrial sites around the city. In these factory buildings, laborers worked in close quarters with little ventilation and poor hygiene standards, creating ideal conditions for the spread of the virus. As October 1918 dragged on, the situation in Philadelphia became more and more dire, with people dying left and right. Bodies piled up in the streets from overflowing hospitals. Henry Hagee, an artist from just outside of the city in Montgomery County, writes in his journal,
October 5th, 1918. Nathaniel Landez died today. All hotels and salons around here and in Philadelphia closed for 10 days by Board of Health on account of the Spanish influenza. October 6, 1918. Today all Sunday schools and church services were closed on account of the Spanish influenza, also known as the flu. October 7th, 1918. Rain. Yesterday I did not see one automobile. Many people are sick and many are dying. October 25th, 1918. Undertakers may not open any caskets at places of burial, and funerals cannot go into the churches on account of the flu.
The sentiments displayed in these journal entries were shared by all Philadelphians. No matter who you were or where you lived, you couldn't escape the flu's death grip.
I don't want to harp too much about how traumatic it got at a certain point, but your neighbors are dying and piling up to the streets. You're going to try anything that you can to keep this from happening to you and your family and the people around you. And so most of the misinformation and confusion that I've seen is mostly people just trying anything that they can to keep this from happening to them and their family.
Misinformed home remedies spread like wildfire. Out of desperation, people most often turned to whiskey. While whiskey itself had no medical qualities, it would make users lethargic, causing individuals to remain at home and drink fluids to hydrate. Along with whiskey, other traditional preventatives were common. These included garlic, red pepper sandwiches, raw onions, and aspidity bags. Aspidity bags were little sacks of pungent herbs that were common in Appalachia. These pre-germ theory treatments were ineffective but eased the fear among some.
Them that went to see the doctor, she'd just say, go home and take aspirin and drink plenty of water, any kind of liquid.
Panic around being infected was exploited by corporations and companies with advertisements offering useless cures and preventatives to the flu. This created greater desperation and mistrust among Philadelphians who struggled to identify reliable information but were willing to try anything that might help. This fear coincided with the war also manifesting in anti-German rhetoric that blamed German immigrants for the surge in flu cases and deaths, some going as far to claim biological warfare. The stereotyping and discrimination also extended to Black Philadelphians.
Medicine is responsible for all kinds of racism in a lot of ways, but there was an incorrect assumption that African Americans were immune to the flu, which is not true, obviously. But because these communities were kind of insular and didn't have the same mobility as a lot of white communities did, their infection numbers were different. Certainly still a lot of African Americans dying of the flu, especially in Philadelphia.
The heightened patriotism wasn't all bad, though. It also had the effect of bringing people together and working collaboratively. So when the hospitals, funeral homes, and cemeteries were overrun, those who were uninfected and strong stepped up by collecting and burying bodies. Seminary students specifically would go out with a horse and a cart to pick up bodies along the streets. Reverend Thomas Brennan describes the Holy Cross Cemetery.
Who can describe the scenes that met the eye during these harrowing days? Everywhere, in every direction, fresh graves swept away from the gaze of the onlooker, causing the well-kept cemetery to resemble a shell-torn field of battle. A constant procession of hearses pressed at the gates, hearses and substitutes for hearses, newspaper wagons, trucks, coal carts, and ash wagons.
The odor of rotting corpses stenched the air. Death was everywhere. As the new year arrived and the spring of 1919 emerged, flu cases in Philadelphia gradually decreased to negligible levels, and normalcy mostly returned. However, the city was left with a deep scar. About 40% of the population had been infected, with 20,000 dead in the city. A clear result of the botched response to it, aided by rampant misinformation and disinformation. While the true reason for the eradication of the disease in Philadelphia is unclear, Experts speculate that the required level of herd immunity was reached within the city because of the high infection rate and established immunity in older populations from previous flu outbreaks about 30 years prior. To avoid showing weakness, there was never any public acknowledgement of the flu's presence within the country by the federal government, even when the mass graves grew common and the President of the United States, Woodrow Wilson, was infected. The federal government disinformed the public. As we see in Philadelphia during 1918 and 1919, misinformation and disinformation can manifest in a variety of ways, whether it's a malicious government campaign or an inconspicuous online article. Falsities of any kind universally have the potential to harm. Weaponized information is a pattern that we can trace throughout history, violently repeating itself time and time again. Presently, lies and fiction flood our social media feed, making them more prevalent than ever. At a time where dishonesty spreads so much faster than the truth, how do we keep ourselves grounded in reality and away from the alluring eyes of deception?